Hello everyone. In this video, I want to tell you and show you what kind of modeling clay I use to sculpt my cars. Even though I always mention in my videos what kind of modeling clay the car is made from, people still often ask in the comments what kind of clay I use for sculpting. Over the years, I have tried many types of modeling clay, and now I work with the one that suits my needs very well. When you hear the word modeling clay, you probably immediately picture this kind of colorful children's clay. By the way, that's actually what started my whole interest in sculpting. This modeling clay was the beginning of my creativity. I used to sculpt with it as a child, but now I hardly ever use it in my sculpting. Besides this children's colorful modeling clay, there are many other types of professional clays for art and modeling different figures. Such clays are already used for training in various types of sculpture. As for me, I never studied sculpting anywhere. I learned everything on my own. And all these clays have different levels of hardness. Some are soft, some are hard, and some are really tough. For me, the most important thing in clay is its hardness, its ability to stretch and compress, not to tear when creating rounded shapes, and its stickiness, so that it works well together. Not every clay has these qualities. That's why I use several different types of clay in my work, each one suited for its own purpose. Let's start with the main and most important clay for me, which is NSP hard. It's the toughest and hardest of all the ones I've tried. Even a small piece of it is incredibly hard to knead by hand. That's why I cut this block into slices with a large knife, like a piece of sausage, and then run it through a special pasta machine to make it even and the required thickness. And then, from the sheets of this clay that I get, I cut out the body parts according to the drawings, sculpt, and create the various shapes needed for the body. NSP clay itself is very well suited for creating complex and small shapes of the car body or parts, whether it's an engine or a headlight block. I make 90% of the entire car from it. The body, the underbody, the wheels, everything is made from this clay. But it also has its downsides. It doesn't stretch, and when creating some rounded body shapes, it cracks and tears. But I've already learned how to fix that. Also, there are a lot of tiny air bubbles in the clay itself that need to be removed, because they make the clay uneven, and all of this is visible, and there end up being a lot of these bubbles. I have to pick them out and fill in these tiny holes. It takes a lot of extra time, the process is very lengthy, and it annoys me. And every time I prepare the clay for sculpting like this, NSP clay itself is sold in these 906 gram blocks, and the price for one block is 1,300 rubles. One block is enough for me to sculpt about 3 cars. The second clay I use is a hard sculpting clay from the Gamma company. It's olive colored and hard, and in my opinion, it's the most versatile. Even though the packaging says it's hard, to me, it feels soft. It's probably about 5 times softer than NSP hard. This clay already has all the necessary properties except for hardness. You can easily knead it in your hands and create the desired shape. The point is that I'm making elements where strong hardness isn't needed. For example, I can sculpt interior parts from it, like seats, the dashboard, and door panels. It's much easier to sculpt all this from such soft clay than from very hard one. It's sticky, bends and stretches well, and the price for a block of this clay is 350 rubles. The third type of clay I use is super professional monster clay, the hardest one in this series. I had high hopes for it, thinking it could replace NSP hard, since reviews said it was really hard and super comfortable for sculpting. It's very expensive, 3,700 rubles for 2 kilograms. That's exactly why I watched reviews to understand if it's even worth buying. And in the reviews, they praised its hardness and versatility in use, meaning how comfortable it is to work with. It's really bad that the modeling clay is only sold in these 2 kilogram blocks and you can't buy a small piece to try, since the price isn't small. In general, I bought it and was disappointed. It's not hard at all, like they said in the reviews. In fact, it's even softer than hard sculpting clay. I even thought they sent me the wrong clay or a defective one, but then someone who also bought this clay with the same hardness wrote to me, and he had the same issue. It was just as soft. If their hardest one is this soft, then what is their soft one like butter or something? But yes, it is very comfortable to sculpt with, that's true. It doesn't stick to your hands, holds its shape well, spreads easily, and has a minimal amount of air bubbles inside. I also use this clay as an additional material for sculpting the interior and other elements where hardness isn't needed, and so that it spreads well over the surface. This kind of clay is great for sculpting figurines, busts, human faces, and things like that. But for sculpting cars, this kind doesn't work for me, so I only use it in small amounts. And I also rarely use regular colored clay for sculpting the interior, so I don't have to paint it with paints, but instead immediately cover the seats and other parts with a thin layer of clay. Since it's very soft and doesn't hold its shape well, as soon as you touch it, it already leaves fingerprints. But that's understandable after all, it's children's clay, it should be soft. If only there was the same colored clay, but much harder, that would be just perfect. I also use it for previews for my videos, and basically that's all I do with this kind of colored clay. I have a lot of clay, a couple of boxes full, but still, I always buy new NSP clay when I run out. Yes, I have a lot of leftover pieces after sculpting a car, but they're no longer suitable for main sculpting because they're all covered in small dust particles and a bit dirty. And by main sculpting, I mean the body part of the car, where you need clean, smooth clay without small dust particles or hairs on it. Besides, it's not easy to reuse the already used pieces. They're very hard. You can't knead them by hand, you can only melt them in a pot. But inside that clay, there will be extra debris, and removing those little hairs from the clay isn't that easy. That's why it's easier for me to just always buy a new block of NSP clay. Especially when I see something like this, it really annoys me. Ideally, it would be best to work in clean, sterile laboratory conditions where there aren't any dust particles or hairs, but with the conditions I have now, it's still not bad to work. These are the types of clay I use in my work. Now you know what kind of clay I use to make my cars. I hope you found this video interesting and useful. If so, please like and subscribe to the channel if you're interested in my clay creations. Thank you for watching this video. Goodbye everyone.